This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, and welcome to episode number 78 of the Photographing the West podcast. I'm your host, Kirby Flanagan. My guest today is Jim Zuckerman, who is a wildlife photographer, travel photographer, and people photographer. You can find his work, including his workshops, tours, and photos at jimzuckerman.com. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to Jim now, and he's going to talk about compositing, a subject that he's an expert in. Glad to have you back, Jim.
Thank you, Kirby. It's nice to be back. From the very beginning of my involvement in Photoshop, I've done compositing. I used to do it with, I used to put images together with film back in the day when we used the darkroom and transparencies for our main source of creating images. Now it's all digital. So I'm going to start with something very easy. Everybody wants to know about how to replace the sky. So let's start there with something very easy. Before I do start though, let me mention if you do compositing and you need to create precise selections, a Wacom tablet, that's WACOM, is the best thing since sliced bread. It allows you to precisely work on your pictures much better than a mouse, much better than a trackpad. I've used a mouse, I've used a trackpad, I've made precise selections with the trackpad on my laptop when I couldn't wait to get home when I'm out in the field, but it's really laborious. A Wacom pen and tablet, much more accurate. I use the 4x6 size with no bells or whistles. It's cheaper, there's less hand movements, and less carpal tunnel syndrome. And it also takes up less space on your desk. So, having said that, let me open up first picture here. This is the castle in Poland, and it's a great subject, but the sky is white, and of course that's just not attractive at all. So I'm going to replace the sky, but let me point out one thing. When you have architecture, it's very easy to make a selection, especially when the sky is white, and I'll show you how to do that. But down here in the right corner, you can see that the white sky blends with some fog into the bottom, and that creates a problem. You can handle it, but it's more involved. So let's just eliminate this very easily. And there's a shortcut, a little trick that I use to get rid of edges of pictures that you may not want. The first step is I go select all. That selects the whole image. You can see the marching ants around the picture. And then the pull down command is edit, transform, scale. The shortcut is Command or Control T. It puts a box around your picture. Let me expand this a little bit. You can see the handles right here. I can just pull that to the side, and now that little area at the bottom is gone. I hit return, and problem solved. Yes, I stretched the castle horizontally, but you can't really tell. If you want to counteract that, what you could do is go edit, transform scale again, and pull it upward to keep that proportion the same. Okay, so here's our castle. The bottom line to compositing is making a good selection. Let me just go select deselect right now. Okay, so you need to make a good selection. Everybody wants to use the magic wand tool because it's quick and dirty, very easy to select something, but it's not accurate. In this case, however, we can use it because you have basically a solid white sky with a little bit of hint of a blue here, but the rest is solid white, and that's perfect for the magic wand tool. When you select the magic wand tool, and let me just point out that my tool palette here, it has 2 columns. Most of you probably have just one column. You click this little double arrow and you get the one. I like 2, so that's how I use it. The magic wand tool hides right here. When you click it, you have the magic wand tool and the quick selection tool. I'll explain both of those, but right now we want the magic wand. When you choose the magic wand tool, up in the toolbar you have a tolerance. Every time you choose a different tool, the choices, the options up here in the toolbar change. With the magic wand tool, the tolerance talks about how tolerant that tool is going to be with respect to color. So a high tolerance will grab everything or lots and lots of things. So let's make the tolerance 89. If I now click in the sky, you can see that I not only grab the sky, but even some of the castle, because the gray is kind of close to white, especially the light gray here. So select, deselect. Let's make the tolerance 9. If I click in the sky now, I get all the white sky because it's uniform in color, but I did not include this little hint of blue here. So a high tolerance will grab lots of colors. A low tolerance will grab a narrow spectrum of colors. So the default is 32. Let me go deselect again, change the tolerance to 32, and now I'll click up here in the sky and see what happens. Okay, it got all the sky except a little bit of blue here. So what I would do, I could click in here again with the magic wand tool. I could take the lasso tool and grab it, and that's actually what I usually do. When you want to add selected areas, like the sky is selected, and we want to add this little blue here, you hold the shift key down. So I can choose the lasso tool, hold the shift key down, shift adds, and just circle that, and now that's included. Okay, if you notice in the castle, there are some windows. If we replace the sky, the windows have to be included as well. So let's enlarge this. I'll go back to the magic wand, and I'm going to hold the shift key down again because we want to add the window, the white window here, to the rest of the selection. Shift key is held down, click in here. I'm going to move this over. And by the way, a shortcut for moving your image when you're magnified, instead of going back to the hand tool and moving it, while we're on the magic wand tool or any tool, just hold the spacebar down. Spacebar turns any tool into the hand. See? So shift key down, we add this window. Spacebar down, move it across. Shift key down, add that window. And let's see if there's any more. Shift key down, get that little space right there. And there's actually a tiny one right there. Okay, here's our selection. However, here's one more. Shift key down right there. So there's something very important to realize about Photoshop images, and that is if you blow this image up, you'll see that there's a transition zone between the sky and the castle. It's not a hard edge. You can see here that the pixels go from white to various shades of gray over the course of, in this case, 2 different rows of pixels. This is what I call the transition zone. And sometimes the transition zone creates a problem in that when you put the new background in, you'll see a hint of the original white sky. And so, let me see here. even some chromatic aberration from the original shot. So what I like to do is I move the selection away from the sky. This is what I call the secret weapon of compositing. You move the selection away from the sky into the castle, just a pixel or two. And that's enough so that when you put the new sky in, there's no telltale white line, in this case white because the sky is white, from the original image. And so the way we do that, all of your commands for selections are under the pull-down menu Select. So we go Select, Modify, because we're modifying our selection. And because the sky is selected, we want to expand it. In the dialog box, I'm going to choose 2. I'm going to expand it 2 pixels. I go OK. So here, watch. Let me blow this up. Here's the before, and there's the after. Before, after. So now when we put the new sky in, yes, we've lost a couple of pixels, but they're expendable. What we've gained is a guarantee that the white sky is not going to show, and this chromatic aberration also is not going to show. So after I've expanded the selection, there's one more thing I want to do, and that is I'm going to feather the edge 1 pixel, always 1 when you're compositing. Select, modify, because we're modifying our selection. Here's what we just used, expand, but this time we're going to feather it. 1 pixel, okay? You won't see anything change. But when the new sky goes in, it's going to be just soft enough to blend with the castle. So let me demagnify this. Here's our selection. And what I like to do, since I don't want to do this again, if I want to put in a different sky next week, I'm going to go Select, Save Selection. And if I don't name it, Photoshop calls it Alpha 1 and then Alpha 2. That's why these are alpha channels. But let's name it. Let's just call it Castle. We go OK. And now you can see the what I've done is in the channels palette. You always have to have these 3 palettes open: layers, channels, and paths. I just made a channel, and it's right there at Castle. So let's put this back there. Whoops. Okay, so now we have to choose a sky. As you can see from the picture, the castle is it's taken in overcast lighting. Well, we need a sky that is going to give us that kind of lighting. It would not make sense to put in a blue sky or a blue sky with puffy white clouds or a sunset sky. It wouldn't make sense, and it wouldn't look right. So the sky that I've chosen is this one. This is the kind of sky that would give you this kind of lighting on the castle. But notice one thing. This sky was taken with a camera that gave me 57.1 megabytes. That's actually the recent camera that I have, which is the Canon 1DX Mark II. This picture was taken with the Canon 5D Mark III, and it's a 60 megabyte file, 60.2. So when I paste the clouds into the castle picture, it's not going to fill the full frame, but I'll use my edit transform scale to fix that. But I just wanted to point that out that if you have pictures where the sizes are not the same, you have to address that issue. So my cloud picture, I go select all, marching ants, as you can see, and now edit, copy. The shortcuts for that are Command A and Command C, or Control if you're on a PC. So edit, copy, you don't see anything change, but this picture is now in Photoshop's clipboard. The clipboard is a temporary holding place for a picture or part of a picture. In fact, if I made a selection like this and then did Command C, this section would not be in the clipboard. and it would replace what I just put in, the whole picture. So let's go back to select all, edit copy. And now we go over here. So in terms of compositing pictures, you have two choices. You can go edit, paste, or edit, paste special, paste into. If I go edit, paste, it just plasters that cloud picture on the background. We don't want that. We want the clouds inside the selection. So let me, oh, I just lost my selection. So let me go select, load selection, castle. Yes, there it is. See, that's how we recall it. I wanted to go edit, paste special, paste into, because I'm doing it into the selection. And there it is. As I told you, it's a bit small. So let's go Command or Control T. That's a shortcut. We just stretch the picture a little bit like that. And now we're good to go. We go Return or Enter. And we have now a layer, a floating layer right here. When you click on the Move tool, you can move it. So you can get different parts of the sky, you see, like that. Now, notice the windows, the cloud picture is seen inside the windows. Also, if we blow this up, look at how perfectly the clouds meet the edge of the castle. It's not a sharp line. It would have been like a knife sharp line had I not feathered it by 1 pixel. There's no telltale sky, and it's perfect with a capital P. And look what a difference that makes. So at this point, you can flatten the image if you want. I flatten them because I don't save pictures with multiple layers, because once I'm done, I'm done. I still, if you say, okay, if you flatten it, how do you replace the sky again? Well, it's easy. Let me go Layer, Flatten Image. So now in my Layers palette, I just have the background. If I want to replace a new sky or even tweak the sky, I just go Select, Load Selection. Here's my castle selection. Okay, here it is, and I can paste another one in. So you don't need the layer to be able to work with this picture again. So that's a very simple composite with a simple subject. Architecture is always easy in terms of replacing backgrounds because they have such nice sharp edges. But what happens if you have a picture like this one? Now, got the same white sky, but the edge of the forest is seriously problematic. Look at the fine detail here. There's no way. I'm at 200% magnified, and look, there's no way you can make an edge of this selection. If you tried the magic wand tool, let me just show you. If we tried magic wand tool, we clicked in the white sky, we have our selection, and we have white areas in the trees. Even if I went select similar, which grabs a lot of the white inside these trees, and even if I expand it by 1 pixel, select modify, expand, let's go 2, and then select modify feather 1. This is exactly what I did with the castle, but watch what happens when I paste the clouds in. Edit, paste special, paste into. Look at the edge. It's horrible. Completely unbelievable. You can see here it lost a lot of the fine branches. These branches are gone. It's terrible. So let's undo that. We'll deselect, select, deselect. So in this case, you have to approach it differently. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, here's my cloud. I'll use the same cloud picture as I did with the castle. I'm going to go edit. It's still in the clipboard. Edit, paste. Now it's plastered on top of the autumn landscape. Let me bring this up so you can see it nice and clearly. So here's the layer. Here's the background. These little eyes next to the pictures, if you click it, it turns off the cloud to turn it back on again. So you see the background is definitely there. So I'm now going to make a layer mask. I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to click this little, well, there's two ways to make a layer mask. You can use the shortcut, this little rectangle next to the FX at the bottom of the layers palette. Let's move that over there. Layers palette is right here. Or you can go up to layer, layer mask, reveal all. But that's more time consuming, more hand movements. So I just click this little icon right there, click. Layer masks are magic. Watch what it can do. Here's my layer mask. A layer mask means you're going to mask part of the picture so you can't see it, and you're going to reveal part of the picture so you can see it. And when I say reveal, I'm talking about the underlying picture, the landscape. So when you have a layer mask and your foreground and background color boxes are black and white respectively, go to the gradient tool. The gradient tool is little understood, seldom used, but it's incredible, as you'll see in a second. We click it, and so when you click the gradient tool, as I mentioned before, every tool you click, you get different choices up here in the tool bar. You get 5 little icons. We want to use the far left one. That's the linear gradient. So now that I've chosen the linear gradient, I'm black to white, gradient tool, I take the cursor and I go from the bottom of the picture and I drag it up. Watch what happens. The gradient tool in a gradual way shows the bottom of the landscape clearly, but the top part of the landscape is blocked by the clouds. And that's what we wanted, except there's too many clouds, they come too low. So instead of starting at the bottom and going up, we can start, let's say, about 2/3 up and go the rest of the way. And watch what happens. Look at that. Now, the transition zone between the trees and the clouds are perfect. We've not lost anything in the original. It blends perfectly. And we've replaced the sky with a believable sky. And that's how you handle that. Any landscape with a white sky and you've got a forest can be done this way. We do have a little curvature here. So there's a little more clouds up with these trees here, but to be honest, that makes sense. But if you don't want that, you can actually brush away these clouds with the brush tool. If we click on the brush tool, let's go to, oh, I don't know, 54% opacity and make it bigger with the bracket key. See, we can brush away a little bit of those clouds. So now those trees at the top don't have any clouds over them. We can even make this a little smaller. There might be a little cloud left up there. There. Now it's perfect. Okay, let me show you another scenario with the same procedure as almost the same procedure as this landscape, but a different twist. Let's say you have a picture like this. I took this in Kenya, and I always liked it because our road was a little bit depressed in the landscape, and so we were below the elephant and looking up at this large animal gave it greater stature. I love the ears flared, but the problem, of course, is the white sky. And this is a bigger problem because if you look at this, it's just, no way to cut that out. No possible way. So I'm going to use the same technique as I did with that autumn landscape, layer mask, gradient tool. However, the clouds would be covering the elephant, and we don't want that. So the first thing I have to do is make a selection of the elephant. And I'm going to use the quick selection tool for that. As I mentioned before, here's the magic wand, here's the quick selection. And the quick selection tool sort of clings to the edge of the subject based upon its contrast with the environment. We have a lot of contrast here. The elephant is very dark, the sky is very white, so it's very easy to grab it. And I don't care about the legs. The legs are in the grass. It's the elephant against the sky that I want. So watch. I drag this along, and look how the marching ants just cling to the edge of the elephant. Got to grab the tusks. This leg comes down here, and that's all I need. Well, maybe we'll grab this right here. Okay. So, just like with the other, just like with the castle, I don't want any of the sky to show along the edge of the elephant. So I'm going to go select, modify, contract. Now let me point out, if the sky were selected, I'd be going expand into the elephant. But the elephant is selected, so I'm going to go contract, further inside the elephant. 2 pixels. I'm going to feather the edge, select, modify, feather. So when the sky goes in, it has that nice juncture. 1. When you feather pictures for compositing purposes, 99.9% of the time it's a 1 pixel feather. Okay, I'm going to save it, select, save selection. We'll call this elephant. Again, you don't have to name it, just alpha 1, alpha 2, but just for clarity purposes, I'm naming it. And now I'm going to deselect. Okay, now we put the cloud in. It's in the clipboard, edit copy. We're going to paste it just like we did with the autumn landscape because there's no selection for it to paste into. We go edit, paste. Okay. Gradient tool. We check that we are on the linear gradient, the far left. And we are black to white. And now we drag this up. Whoops. Sorry, forgot to make a layer mask. We click in this little box right here. There's our layer mask. Now we're ready to go. Drag it up here. And there's our picture of the clouds blending with the grass. They're on the elephant. We'll get rid of that in a minute. So let's say we want to raise the cloud layer. If we start from right here and go up, see, we have a white horizon, which is quite feasible. Or if we want those clouds, further down, start right here, bring them down a little bit. Let's just leave this right here. Got to get the clouds off the elephant. So select, load selection. elephant. Okay, here's our selection. The reason why I had to do this is because when I brush away the clouds from the elephant, see, if I didn't select deselect, if I didn't have the marching ants and I tried to brush those clouds away from the elephant's edge here, it's going to bleed over into the sky. It's going to be annoying, time consuming, laborious. But with the selection, select, load selection, elephant, the marching ants constrain the brush tool. We click on the brush tool, make it bigger, and just brush it away. Let's go to 100% opacity on the brush. Deselect, select, deselect, and look at it. It took 2 seconds. That's why I had to make the selection in the beginning. And if you blow this up, and anywhere along here, the edge of the elephant and the edge of the clouds blends perfectly. No telltale white line, no sharp edge like a knife because I didn't feather. It's perfect. So these are compositing techniques when you want to replace the sky. There are other situations that you want to put together. Like, for example, let's say you have something complex. Like this. I've gone to a lot of car shows to photograph classic cars. This is the 1910 Morgan. The backgrounds are always bad. We have, other cars. We have usually there's a lot of people in the background. Doesn't matter what's in the background because once you make a selection, they all just disappear. The key in compositing a picture like this is it's on grass, and I'm going to take the grass with me into the next selection because it's very difficult to recreate something like this, the way the tires meet the grass. It's kind of possible. If I really had to do it, I could do it, but it's really hard and time consuming. Also, creating a perfect shadow is doable, but it's not easy. So what I like to do is I take the whole bottom part of the picture with the car, but in terms of the strategy for making a selection, we can't use the magic wand tool. Yeah, you could grab the sky, but that's not what I want. I want the car. And the car is actually very detailed, a lot going on. And so we can't use the quick selection tool because it's not going to cling to all this stuff. The magic wand tool, as I said, is impossible. The lasso tool, the lasso tool is a free-form selection tool, but there's just no way, even greatly magnified, you're going to go along here and be able to have a steady hand for the whole thing. It's just not going to happen. And you're going to hate yourself in the morning. So there's only one tool that can address this issue, and that's the pen tool. People are afraid of the pen tool because you can get into trouble quickly with it, but I'm going to show you how to avoid that, and it's as easy as it gets, to be honest. So the pen tool in the tools palette is this little tool right here. It looks like an old-fashioned pen nub. You click it, and all it does is put down anchor points. That's what Photoshop calls them, or Adobe. Anchor points. Point, 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 like that. So what you have to do is, and I'm showing you this picture because it's a time consuming, but when you're done, it's really something. What what you have to do is you have to make a selection of every part of the car, every section of it. So inside here is one selection. Inside here is one selection, and so on. Even under the steering wheel here, this is a black car that's coming through this little space. You got to make a selection all inside of here. You don't have to do it inside the wheels because we're taking the grass with us. But these struts, this whole section in here has to be a selection. The windows back here, even where the glass is, in here, many in here, many selections. So let me show you how to do that. I'll start with one of these selections here because they're really easy. Blow it up. I usually work at about 300% when I'm using the pen tool. So we've made our selection of the tools. Here's the pen tool, and all you do is lay down anchor points along the edges of the subject. When you're on a straightaway like this, you can have them further apart. You can make one right here. See how easy that is? And then you can make a long space here, but when you go around curves, you want to go closer together so you can define that curve really nicely. And then up here, and when you touch the first anchor point you put down with the last one, the pen tool has a little circle next to it, and that tells you that you're completing the circuit. There. What we have now is a path, not a selection yet. The path is, it defines the space that we need. In order to convert this into a selection so we can use it for compositing, we go to the Paths palette. And the work path is what I just made. To convert this to a selection, it's very easy. There's a little tiny icon right here when you click in the Paths palette. It's a submenu. When you click it, you get a submenu, and the middle choice, about the middle, says Make Selection. Always a 1 pixel feather radius. You go OK, and now you've got your marching ants. And so at this point, you save them. You go Select, Save Selection, and you don't have to call it anything. So I'll just leave it blank and go OK. We've now saved this selection. We now deselect, select deselect, and go to the next one. So we do the same thing here and the same thing here. Here, let me do this one, just one more so you can see, and then I'll put it all together for you. So this is at 500%. We can go to 3. So we have a little curve here. So we want the pen tool in small increments because of the curve. If you make a mistake, like you do this and then that, you can go back to the pen tool and go to pen minus or delete anchor point. Just go click here, click there, go back to the pen, the original one, click on the last one that you wanted to keep, click and continue. I'm making small spaces to keep the integrity of the shape of the space. Okay, here's my closed circuit. I go to the Paths palette, make selection, 1 pixel feather radius, okay, and there it is, and then I would save it again. So let me show you, let's see, where is it? Where's I lost my menu here. If you lose your layers, channels, paths, you can just open it back up again under window and then layers. There it is. Okay, so here is the channels palette for what I did to make a composite with this picture last time. See, alpha 1, alpha 2, and so on. Alpha 1 was the whole sky. And then alpha 2 all the way down to the bottom are individual little pieces of those selections. In order to combine them into one selection, which is what I did, alpha 35 is what I saved in demonstrating to you, so let me just trash that. So after defining all of these paths, and then I made them into selections, I combined them all into a final. So, and that's alpha 34. So let me show you. If I reduce this down and I go select, load selection, alpha 34. I go OK, and here's the selection for the entire car. All of these things have been combined, and the way you combine them, here, let me deselect that. The shortcut for deselect is Command or Control D. So let's say we want to combine alpha 1 through 5. I hold the shift key down and the command key. Both of those, shift and command, or on a PC, it would be shift and control. You click here, 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 and here. And as you can see in the picture, the sky here, let me, just to show you, make this red so it's easy to see. I'll take the brush tool. So you can paint inside the areas that are selected. So here, here, and here, and here. You see, these areas have been selected, but these have not been. So that's how you can add all the selections together. And when you add them all together and then go save selection again, that's how you get what I got in alpha 34. So again, if you go select, load selection, alpha 34 is the combination of all the selections. Go OK, and there they are. So the final picture is here. I put a castle in the background and the car in the foreground. You can see I took the grass with me and I put clouds in there. So let me show you how I did that. Here's our selection. So let's see, actually, see there, you can select the subject and you can select the background. Right now we have the subject selected. If we go inverse, select inverse, now the car is selected and not the background. So we can paint over the car, but you see it's not going to paint on the background. So there's two approaches here. We can take the car and paste it into the background, or the background and paste behind the car. But I see I forgot to include this car. You see? The selection goes around here, but we don't want that car there. So at this point, I'd probably do this by hand with the lasso tool. So wait, let me see where we are. We are, okay, the car is selected. So it's very easy to overlook things. So you have to go back and fix them. So we want to get rid of this section. So I told you before that when you hold the shift key down, you can add selections together. So for example, let's say I want to use the lasso tool. I hold the shift key down and I want to grab that. You see, it's combined. But if I hold the option key down, option subtracts. So I hold the option key down on the lasso tool and watch. I can go along here and go like this, and it'll take that away from the selection. So, and this is another way that I make very precise selections. I'm at 300%. Option key is being held down so that I can get rid of this. I'll just do it fast because this is just for demonstration purposes, but this is how you can tweak a selection, adding and subtracting. Shift adds, Option and Alt subtracts. Again, I'm just doing this really fast. I think that's part of the other car. Okay, so we now have the car selected, and we want to put the background in. So I'm going to go with the castle picture. We'll go select all, edit, copy. Again, Command A, Command C, or Control A, Control C is the shortcut. And our car is selected. So, whoops, I forgot another little area here. Our car is selected, and so we want to go inverse, select inverse, and we want to put the castle in. So we go edit, edit, paste special, paste into. I do these with keyboard shortcuts so fast that when I'm looking for the pull-down menus, it takes me longer. Okay, now we want to move it. Actually, we want to do two things. We want to flip it horizontally because the roof of the car is blocking most of the castle. Even if we take the move tool and move it up here, you see it's blocked mostly. So let's flip this. We have a layer now, as you can see in the layers palette, and all the controls for manipulating layers in terms of moving, flipping, inverting is under Edit, Transform. Here we have Scale, where we change the size. We can rotate it. We can distort it. All kinds of things. But what we want to do is flip it horizontally. Actually, this should be horizontally, but somebody in Adobe didn't quite get English grammar. So flip horizontal. Now we can see it. And with the Move tool, we can move it up and down to our liking. And so there's three things at this point that need to be done. One, I have to remove the yellow color from the grass, or in other words, I have to make this grass match with that grass. And it's just a matter of tweaking the color. Two, I have to put clouds in, which I've already demonstrated. And three, if I wanted to, the reflection in the glass could be changed to something else. Right now, it's kind of reflecting the grass that the car is sitting on, which is fine. I would probably darken it a little bit. But here's the composite using the pen tool, and you can see that all these struts are showing up perfectly. Even, detail here under the steering wheel, right through here where the person would be sitting. And this podcast is not about tweaking color, so I'll leave that for another one. There's many, many, many ways to tweak color in Photoshop, but in terms of compositing, this is probably one of the most complex kinds of composites you can do. It does take time, but it's worth it because, as I showed you, here is the final composite, and you can see how I blended the grass together, put the sky in, and this is the kind of shot that you'd want to take originally, but good luck. Let me show you a couple other compositing things that are fun to do. There's a technique I use. It's called mirroring, and it has to do with compositing. It's a fun thing to do, especially with architecture and especially with colorful architecture. So if you have a shot like this one, this was taken on Burano Island, just a 30-minute boat ride from Venice, Italy. You can mirror this image either left or right, and it becomes something completely different. It's really a lot of fun. The way you start is by expanding the canvas. Adobe calls this area a canvas. And so if we go image, image size allows you to resize the image for emailing and putting on Facebook and your website and so on. But canvas size allows you to expand the actual working area of the image. You're given a tic-tac-toe graphic, and if we want to expand it, let's say left, we would click in the middle right of this box, and the arrows show where the new area is going to be. So if we take this number and double it, that's 37,144, right? 37,144. Okay, here's what we have. But actually, I forgot to do something. Let's go back and let's put this in the clipboard. Select all, edit, copy. Okay, now we'll go, now it's in the clipboard. We'll go to canvas size, image canvas size. Click right there. Our number is 37.144. And now we're going to paste. We can just go edit, paste, move it into place with the move tool. And now flip it horizontally. Edit, transform, flip horizontal. And now you have something very different from the original. If you mirror two horizontal images, you end up with basically a panorama mirror. Let's do it on the other side. So with multiple undos, we'll undo that. Let's try the other side. Image, canvas size. Now let's click on this side. So the new real estate goes to the right. Same width, 37.144. And by the way, this color is the background color. That doesn't matter because you're covering it up. Let's paste it in, edit, paste, move it into place with the move tool, and now flip it. Edit, transform, flip horizontal. A very different image. We could even take the dodge tool and lighten that up a bit on 100% opacity. And now you have something pretty wild. So this is what happens if you work on a horizontal image. If you do it with a vertical image, Here's a snowy picture in Yosemite. If we mirror this either way, let's copy this to the clipboard, select all, edit copy, and we go image canvas size. So, sorry, that was image size, image canvas size. If we go here, so the new real estate goes on the left, we double this, that's 24.96, 24.96, and we paste this, edit paste, with the move tool, move it over here, and we now flip it horizontally, edit, transform, flip horizontal, and look at that. You have something really kind of surreal because everybody knows this would never happen in nature. What I also do once this is finished is blow this up and look at the dividing line just to make sure it's perfectly mirrored, and it looks like it is. Okay, so that's just another composite idea. Sometimes what I do, and I wrote about this in an upcoming e-magazine. I write and publish a free e-magazine monthly, and I talk about this technique. So this is a mirror, and what I will often do is take another element like a mountain lion or a wolf or some other element and put it in here so it's not mirrored. So the whole background is a mirror, but the one subject is not. And the title of the article is double takes because you expect that subject to be mirrored, but it's not, and you kind of takes a few seconds to figure out what's going on. So anyway, this is just another idea for compositing. Kirby, do we have time for one more?
Sure.
Okay, I'll show you one more. Let's say you have a picture of a dinosaur. This is a model I photographed. I made it into a semi-silhouette. And let's say you want to put it into this seascape. First, you have to decide where you want to put it. And of course, the lighting it doesn't match at all. But I'll show you in a very unique technique how to fix that. So let's say we want to put it behind this rock right here. If we just put it out in the open, it's almost going to look like it's pasted into the scene. But if you put it behind something, it's more believable. So the first thing we have to do is make our selection. In other words, we want to make an area into which the dinosaur is going to be placed. So I'm going to take the quick selection tool, and I'm going to select this rock right here. Just like that. And I'm now going to go select inverse because I'm not going to put the dinosaur inside this selection. But if I go select inverse, now I've got the entire background selected. As you can see, it won't go in there. So I'm now going to contract the selection, select modify contract 2 pixels, select modify feather 1 pixel, and I'm now going to select save the selection as alpha 1. Okay, now we have to select the dinosaur, and I specifically photographed it against white to make it really easy. This is about as easy as it gets in terms of making a selection. Magic wand tool, select the white, go inverse, select inverse, and now we have the dinosaur. So, whoops. We want to copy this to the clipboard, edit, copy, and now we want to put it into our scene, and we go edit, paste special, paste into what? Into the selection. Okay, with the move tool, we're going to move it. See how it goes behind that rock, but obviously it's too big. So we hit Command T or edit transform scale, and we want to make it smaller now. Let me just mention that I'm using Photoshop CC 2018 right now. When I got 2019, they changed what I'm going to show you here in 2020. In CC 2020, they give you the option. For 30 years, if you want to make this smaller and maintain the proportions, you have the Shift key down and move this like this, and then you can move it over. In 2019, you did not hold the Shift key down and did it. In 2020, you got the choice. You can hold the Shift key down or not. There's a setting in there. So I just want to make that clear. Okay, so we hit return. The dinosaur is now behind the rock, but it looks ridiculous. Even if I made it black, because silhouettes are black, right? It wouldn't match because all of these rocks have this glow from the ocean mist and the golden light of the low angled sunlight. So we have to match the dinosaur with its environment. So the first thing we have to do is make a selection of the dinosaur. It's a layer right now, but we have to make it a selection with marching ants. And you can see that it's layer 1 right here. If I hold the Command key down and I click in the layer of the dinosaur, I get the marching ants. But we don't want the feet, we just want the body because that's what's going to show. So I'm going to take the lasso tool and hold down the Option key or Alt key on a PC because Option or Alt subtracts. And I'm going to get rid of these selected areas so I have just the body. Okay, for demo purposes, that's good enough. Well, we don't want it to be dark in there. Okay. So, how do we match this dinosaur with its environment? If you look closely, you have a gradient of this brownish tone, yellow-brown, from dark up here to lighter down here. So if we take the top of the dinosaur and we go over to about this position right here, that would make sense for the color to go from here to here on the dinosaur. So we take the eyedropper tool and we're going to match this color by clicking right here. And that color goes in our foreground color box. To put a color in the background color box, you hold down the Alt or the Option, and I'm going to click down here, again with the eyedropper tool, click down here. So now you see we have a gradient, or we have dark brown or middle tone brown to a lighter brown, which is from here to here. So I'm going to now take the gradient tool and the marching ants are constraining the effect. Draw a gradient like that. Let me hide the marching ants with a Command or Control H. We can tweak this at this point. We can open up levels, edit, adjustments. Edit and adjustments are where you control your color and contrast. Levels and curves are contrast. Levels is much easier, so I just use levels. It's quick and dirty. And you can take, here's your slider, so we can make our dinosaur a bit darker. We can make the highlights a little lighter, a little more contrast. There. We click OK. And so now we have a dinosaur with the same tonality as the environment. It was a little dark here because I didn't make a super precise selection because I'm doing it for demo purposes. But here's how we put the dinosaur behind the rock, and we matched it with the environment. One last thing to do. If you look at this very carefully, the photograph has noise. Actually, this photograph was originally filmed. It was scanned on a high-end scanner, and so this is grain. But in digital images, of course, we have noise. The area that I filled in with the color has no noise. So you have to do something that you usually don't do, and that's add noise. So we go filter, noise, add noise. And it gives you numbers here. So you keep adding numbers until it matches it. This is 2.4. Let's try 3. That's pretty good. Of course, this was film, remember, this is digital, but had this been a digital image, these two noise areas would be almost identical, perfectly believable. And there it is. So that concludes it, Kirby.
Thanks, Jim. That was great info. Appreciate your time and effort in putting this together. Be sure to sign up for Jim's e-zine. It's a wonderful tool, and you'll learn a lot from each publication. So that's it for today. Thanks for your patience in this slightly long episode, but it's all great information. Bye for now, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks.